Long time ago, in the quiet kingdom of Kwaso, there lived a poor hunter named Manu. Manu's life was a constant struggle. Though he worked tirelessly to provide for his family, his poverty made him the least respected man in the village. To make matters worse, his wife Asavia, who should have been his source of comfort, often ridiculed him. Her sharp words cut deeper than any insult from the villagers. One day, as Manu ventured deep into the forest to hunt, he encountered an old man. The stranger's appearance was startling. His long gray hair and a beard shimmered in the sunlight, and his eyes carried an unearthly wisdom. The old man spoke in a calm yet commanding tone. "Manu," he said, "you have suffered for too long. Today, I bring you an opportunity to change your life." Manu froze. The man's sudden appearance and his knowledge of Manu's name unnerved him. "Who are you, sir? How do you know my name? And what do you mean by changing my life?" Manu asked cautiously. The old man smiled. "Who I am does not matter. What matters is the mission I bring to you. Your suffering has not gone unnoticed. If you listen carefully and follow my instructions, you will no longer live in poverty." Manu hesitated but nodded, desperate for a way out of his misery. The old man continued, "In this kingdom, there are 3 ancient symbols that have been lost to time. They are the foundations of the kingdom's history. King Nana Owusu has promised pot of gold to anyone who can restore these symbols and their meaning." "But I don't know anything about these symbols," Manu replied. The old man raised a finger. "That is why I am here. I will tell you what to do. Go to the village Baba and divide your hair into 3 locks. 1 at the front and 2 at the back. These locks will represent the symbols. Their meanings are as follows. The front lock means keep any secret that your life depends on from everyone, even your wife. The left back lock means a stepchild cannot love you more than your biological child. The right back lock means your body's needs will always outweigh your emotions. Even in pain, your eyes will close when it's time to sleep. Take these symbols to the king. Strike a deal with him for the pot of gold. But remember, Manu, these symbols hold great power, and their lessons are meant to guide your life." With those words, the old man vanished into the forest, leaving Manu both awestruck and uneasy. Manu returned to the village and had his hair styled as instructed. With the symbols on his head, he made his way to the palace. The guards, initially hesitant to let a poor hunter approach the king, eventually allowed him entry after hearing his claims about the lost symbols. In the grand hall of the palace, King Nana Owusu sat on his golden throne, surrounded by his council of elders. "Manu, what brings you to my court?" the king asked, his voice echoing in the chamber. "May you live long, your majesty." Manu began. I have brought you the lost symbols of our kingdom. The room fell silent as the king and his council leaned forward in curiosity. Manu explained the symbols on his head. The eldest councilman stepped closer, examining the hunter's haircut. Your Majesty, the elder said, I recognize these symbols. My grandfather once told me about them, but I cannot recall their meanings. The king turned to Manu. If you know the meanings, speak, and you shall have your reward. Manu hesitated before responding. Your Majesty, I propose a deal. I will bring you the symbols and their meanings, but in return, I ask for 1 pot of gold every month until the meanings are rediscovered. If the kingdom ever learns the meanings, you may sacrifice me to the gods during the annual festival. The council erupted in murmurs, but after a brief deliberation, the king agreed. Manu left the palace with his first pot of gold, his heart filled with hope and pride. For 3 years, Manu visited the palace every month, collecting pots of gold. His newfound wealth brought him respect in the village, but it also stirred envy, especially in his wife, Asabia. One day, Asabia was summoned by the palace. The king and his council greeted her with kind words, but their intentions were clear. Asabia, the king said, your husband has been bringing us the symbol for years, but he has kept their meanings from us. We need those meanings to restore our kingdom's history. If you can convince him to reveal them, we will reward you with pots of gold every month for a year. Asabia, tempted by the promise of wealth, agreed. That night, she began her campaign to extract the secrets from Manu. My love, she said softly, why do you keep secrets from me? Don't you trust me? Manu sighed. It is not about trust, my dear. Some things must remain unspoken for our own good. But Asabia was relentless. Over the next few days, she played on his emotions, accusing him of not loving her and threatening to leave. Finally, one evening, after hours of pleading, Manu gave in. Fine, he said. I will tell you the meanings of the symbols, but please, let this be the end of it. The next morning, Asabia hurried to the palace and revealed everything to the king. When Manu arrives at the palace for his monthly pot of gold, the atmosphere was different. The king and his council sat with stern expressions. Manu, the king began, we know the meaning of the symbols now. The front lock means Keep any secret that your life depends on from everyone, even your wife. The left back lock means a stepchild cannot love you more than your biological child. And the right back lock means your body's needs will always outweigh your emotions. Manu's heart sank. A deal is a deal, Your Majesty. Do as you must. He was arrested and caged, awaiting his sacrifice at the upcoming festival. On the day of the festival, Manu was brought before the crowd, humiliated and shackled. His stepson stood nearby, and Manu begged him for help. "My son, please cover my shame with a cloth," he pleaded. The boy shook his head. "I am not your son. This is your burden to bear." The king overheard this exchange and paused. The truth of the symbols was becoming clear. As the executioners prepared to strike, the king noticed something strange. Manu was sleeping peacefully on the ground. How can a man sleep moments before his death? The king wondered. Then it struck him. The symbols were alive in Manu's life. The king raised his hand, halting the execution. "Manu, you live by these symbols, but you failed to truly understand them. You revealed the secret that sustained your life, proving the first symbol. Your stepson refused to help you, proving the second symbol. And your body, in its exhaustion, surrendered to sleep, even in the face of death, proving the last symbol." The king spared Manu's life and declared, "Let this be a lesson to all. Wisdom is not in just knowing life's truth, but in living by them." Manu, humbled and grateful, left the palace a changed man. Asabia, having betrayed her husband, lost her wealth and status, a victim of her own greed.